While people are focusing on AI, they're forgetting about crypto. I still do not believe in crypto, but I cannot deny that crypto does provide some good moves that we can participate in as traders and make money. Now, there are three cryptos that I'm watching. The first one is Solana. Solana is showing something very nice. When we look at the Solana chart, this is a daily chart of Solana. The first thing that we see is this huge trend line break. I like to draw these trend lines because they help to show you the bigger picture of things. The first thing that we see in Solana is it broke out here and then it just fakes everybody out because I thought it was going to go to the moon, and then it comes down and crashes again. But then it starts to form something really beautiful. It breaks out of this long trend line, forms something called a lower chit here. So a lower chit is when it forms the lower third of the base, and then we get this big green candle. I color coded my candles, so green means that there was a lot of volume compared to the previous days. So when it breaks out with such big green pivot candles, and I know it has started moving up. It did that and kind of crashed again, and now it's set up again. It's a little bit choppy, but on the longer term, I think it's gonna do something really nice, because one of my indicators is the relative strength indicator. The question is, how can you profit from Solana? So there's an ETF called SOL. SOLX. Is it SOLX? I am forgetting. SOLZ. So here I did provide a long-term alert to people on the first green candle here. So buy at market, stop was here, take some profit here, and then it came back down and it stopped me out. I bought again today, and I'm making this video because it has now recovered. Sometimes in trading, you have to keep watching, get out when you have to, get in when you need to. So this one is an ETF that just replicates the price action of Solana. So whenever Solana moves 1%, this one moves 1%. Then it's also a ×2 ETF, but I don't think I would touch that. Reason being, it's moving about 15% per day now. 15% per day is very, very volatile. So in 2 days, whatever money you put in could have dropped 40%, right? Also in 2 days, your money could have gone up 80%. So I don't like such volatility. Enough with Solana, we go on to XRP, which is what I'm really excited about. If you're enjoying this video and want to build financial freedom using the stock market, I put together a free guide called 10 chart patterns that make money. It's based on the exact system that we use at Profit Punch, a financial newsletter and educational hub that sends you A+ stock setups where we tell you exactly when to buy and sell, and also will teach you stock trading from the ground up. These are the same patterns that our members use to catch moves like SMCI 250%, NVDA 200%, Uplavin 350%. The guide is short, visual, and beginner-friendly. Just click the link in the description or pinned comment to grab your free copy. Now back to the video. So this is a base that we've been studying for a while. So XRP has this really, really huge breakout here. XRP literally goes up about 300%, 400%, which is a very big move. I think in my head that this thing is about to break out again. It breaks out, but then it comes back and fails. And then it looks like it's going to be setting up this whole time. It forms some cheats here, but then none of them are trustworthy. Then we see a trend line forming, and the first sign of life is here again. 9th May, it does this very nice breakout out of this cheat, and that's very nice, so I expected it to go up. But one thing is that stocks rarely go above a falling 50-day simple moving average. This black line you see here is a 50-day simple moving average. Normally what happens is that they go up and they come back and test it. So we see it come back and test this level of support, which is expected. After that sort of double bounce, then it's going back up. I wouldn't trust this thing unless it breaks above the high here and then forms something called a handle, or an equivalent of this, but it forms it in this upper third of the base. When it does something like that, I think this thing is gonna rip up and move again. But now onto the most exciting, which is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been acting so nice. This is where your money should be. Not because I believe in Bitcoin, I don't believe in crypto, but because it is showing very beautiful price action. I think it's all of these MAGA people that are pushing these things up. But as a stock trader, I don't ask questions. This is not time for ethics. I just buy when it shows movement. So let's go to the weekly chart and see what's really happening. If you really zoom out, you can see Bitcoin has been sitting down since 2021. This is 2025. So what does that say? The price hasn't really gone anywhere for 4 years. And remember when I told you that when these things break out, they will run about half of the time of the breakout? Yes. So I think this thing will run from November 2024 till November 2026. How is it going to run? I think it's likely to do something like it did here in 2016. Now, I don't think it's going to go up 2,000 or 3,000%, but hear me out. You see this very big base from 2013 to 2017, right? Around here. Takes about 4 years. And then it runs for 2 years from January 2017 till December 2017. And this move did produce 3,000%. And that is something which we can see here again. So it sits down again from 2018, 2020. This is about 2.5 years. Breaks out and then does 560% move, which is really nice. And then now we sit down for 4 years. When was the last time we sat down for 4 years? Was it not here? You see that? And then it breaks out and it returns onto the support level, which is quite normal for breakouts. Normally just run out. Like we see here, once it broke out here, it just went. Sometimes it will pull back. So here we see a breakout. These breakouts that are slanting are not as nice as flat breakouts. Flat breakouts are the best. Here we can see it broke out and then returned a little bit and then ran again. So you can see the nature of breakouts. Also here, once it's forming a base, jumps out of the resistance, sits on the resistance, then moves. So I think that's what's happening here. Breaks out to all-time highs. All-time highs is a very good sign because no one is ready to dump the stock or the commodity or the crypto, whatever it is, a tradable commodity. And then it comes and sits back onto this resistance. And that's when I started loading up again. And then here we can see also the daily chart. We can use this as a study chart for Bitcoin. This is a very nice chart. You should study it because here we have a double top. It fails, it comes back down. You should be out whenever you see these things. Don't hold on to something. Forms a checkout. So checkouts mean that people are trying to push the price down so that they can buy for themselves. Whenever you see these checkouts and then it forms a cheat, this was the first buying point that I bought. I did ride this move up here because in my head I was like, oh, this thing is just going to go up. But remember when I said stocks rarely just cross up a falling 50-day simple moving average. They normally will go up and then test it. So it comes and tests it, and also it's doing something called a handle. So this is quite expected for breakouts. There was this sort of handle before it did this 60% move, which I actually did profit from last year. I was stopped out here because I am using the Bitcoin ETF, and I'm going to show you why. And then I re-entered again, and we see this very strong candle. So these strong candles are always a good sign. So long candles and it closes at the top of the candle means that people are very bullish and they're buying. Bitcoin has a very clean price action. How can you profit from Bitcoin? The first one that I really like is the 2 times ETF of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin moves about 3.95% per day, which is not a lot. So I normally use the 2 times ETF, which is BITX. So you can see my trade recommendations on BITX, but let me first show you why BITX is a very good crypto. Let's go back to this move where Bitcoin. So on this particular move, Bitcoin itself went up 100%, but this one, it went up 120%, but the 2 times ETF went up 400%. So you can see that whenever you hold on to this thing, but you need to know exactly when to get in and out, but that's what I'll do for you in the newsletter. Sign up for that if you're quite interested in that service. Yeah, so you buy it there, and then you just have to hold, and then you have to know when to get out. For these very first things, you have to use the 20-day simple moving average. So we see 400%. Then here, we remember Bitcoin moved up 60%. This one did about 150%. So I was like, wow. Because I remember that time I risked $50, and I think I made 1,000. Okay, after looking through Bitcoin, let's see which stocks Bitcoin is helping move up. The first one is MicroStrategy. Of course, there are several stocks, but we always want to focus on the best of the best. And I think there are 3 stocks which are the best. And out of those 3, you just want to focus on the top 2. The third one is never even a very good option. So MicroStrategy here, we can see on the weekly chart, a very nice cup with a handle. This is a very good base structure. We see a bunch of checkouts. This double bottom is a very good signs. Then you see the trend line break. And we all know that when a stock is rising under a falling 50-day simple moving average, it normally comes back to test it, which I think is what is happening. And since Bitcoin looks like it's showing a very bullish signal, then I would expect MicroStrategy to jump as well, because every time Bitcoin moves, MicroStrategy does a bigger move. The next one is Coinbase, and Coinbase just did a very, very good signal today. So you see that these are all showing very similar signals. But one close number you have to look for is this IBD relative strength. So MicroStrategy has a higher value. That means it has kept its price. It has acted much better than Coinbase. Coinbase has a very low value. That's the thing that I use to grade these stocks. But then Coinbase has shown a very strong signal. When you see these green candles, I color coded them to mean that there's very strong volume on those days. And here we see it is having a long best as well. We are just waiting for it to jump out of this chit. This is something called a mid chit. A mid chit is when it happens in the mid of the base like this. The best chit are the ones in the upper third of the base, but this is in the mid of the base, so kind of the second best option. These low chits that happen in the lower third of the base, those ones are okay, but they're better as swing trades and not long-term holds. So I really think this is just going to jump out and then keep running like it did here in the past, because when Bitcoin runs, then since Coinbase is directly related to Bitcoin, I think it's going to do something very similar. Then the third and last one in this crypto sector is something called HAT. Now, HAT is the third best, as you can see from this value here. The reason I don't like HAT is that its 30-week moving average is flattening. That's not always a good sign because the stock has to fight over that. And it corrected a lot. This one corrected about 60%. So these are never very good signs. And this is kind of the weakest. I'm just going to keep watch of this for swing trades. But if I was to hold to get a very good Bitcoin move, I would definitely choose MicroStrategy or Coinbase, one of those two. Then HAT will be if you're to miss out on the other two moves. But if you're watching them every day, then you're not going to miss out.